This year sells for $600 on MQL. And today we're going to code it fully. We're going to go through all the codes with full explanation. And if you can find an evening to sit down and code it with me, then by the end of this video, you will fully own this EA. So with no more shenanigans, let's start. The EA has quite a lot of good reviews, quite a lot of good comments as well. It has an overall rating of 4.49 on MQL, and it has been listed since 2023. Now, the only place where I could find a live demonstration of the EA was on my FX book here with the TopBottom EA. It is by this user. I don't suppose that this is the same person who has written the EA. It's probably a user who has bought it and has been using it on ICMarkets. The overall returns 551% so far. But what I'm more interested in is year-by-year progression. So if I look 2019, I think he started with a dream for Lamborghini because I'm seeing 50+% results. Then the same probably continued in 2020 until he had a bad quarter and he stopped. Then I guess he came back the next year from March again, so from quarter 2. But again with the dream for Lamborghini because I'm seeing 86% returns, 50% return. But somewhere around the middle of the year, the risk setting was toned down. And there onwards, I'm seeing like somewhere between 5 and 10% returns. And the loss months have also come down quite a bit. Then coming 2022, the similar profile continued where we're seeing a few months in losses, but majority in profit. And the profits ranging somewhere between 5 and 10% on an average. And then 2023 is a continuation of what has been happening since 2021 and 2022 with a couple of months in negative. And I think the risk profile was toned down even further because now I'm not even seeing a 10% month. I'm seeing between 3 and 6% on return side. But then on the risk side as well, the loss months have also shrunk down. So it's only 1%. In April and 1% in October. And then 2024, a similar sort of results again with like profit side somewhere around 5% a month, sometimes less, sometimes more. But then 2 bad months where it's minus 15%, minus 13%. And then in 2025 with the Trump administration and all the shebangs around the tariffs and stuff, not very surprising that the first quarter was negative. I think maybe the risk profile could have used a little bit of adjustment during that period. But overall, I mean, yeah, most EAs did not perform that well during the first quarter of 2025. But now we are seeing from April, it's starting to come back. I don't know whether it's just 1 month or it will continue. But overall, I think the profile of the EA is quite decent. It's an EA with a stop loss, and I like that about it. It's not a martingale strategy or a grid strategy where you're risking your entire account. So even if you have losses, the losses are not going to be in one night. It's a slow burn, so your account will go down slowly and you will have time to react. Anyways, so this is what I could find. It's version 1.31. Now let's run a backtest.
Just a very quick point. YouTube has been giving me a lot of issues with my No Shenanigan account because of the faceless content. So I've moved on to a new channel by the name Mr. Caffrey, where I am uploading all of the videos which I'm uploading here as well. And then on top, there are other stuff that I'm able to share on that channel because that channel contains my face. So it's easier to make those videos. So if you like this channel, then probably a good idea to already move to that channel, as I will slowly and gradually be moving away from this No Shenanigan channel. So let's get back to the backtesting.
So let's go back to MetaTrader. And here in the market, I'm going to search for TopBottom EA. And I'm going to download the demo. So now the demo is downloaded and I can see it here under Expert Advisor, market as TopBottom EA. I'll drag it down here. It says the supported currencies are GBPCAD and Euro SGD, and it's 1 minute chart. So I'm going to run it on GBPCAD on a 1 minute chart from last month until today. Let's run it visually first to see how it works. On the input side, here is the lots. This probably is the compound interest switcher. So whether you want fixed lots or you want to have it based on risk percentages. Then volatility is the Williams R percentage. Thresholds, the stop loss, take profit. And then here on the display switch, I'll turn it to true so we can see the display as well. So let's start. It's a very simple panel. I think when the trades are open, here you see the buy profit and the lot size. which you can see here as well. So I don't know what's the use of this. So this is how it's going to run. Quite a lot of trades here, quite a lot of trades here as well. The EA is at 9% profit already, up to 11%. Now I'll stop this test and let's go back, and I'll remove the display switch so it can run faster, and let's run it without the visual mode so we can see the performance quickly. So this is the graph. So overall, what I like about this graph is that there is no running big drawdown. There is a stop loss in place. So either it makes a loss or it makes a profit. So it's going to be a slow burn. It's not going to be a massive amount of drawdown in one night if something goes wrong. Looking at the backtest results in 1 month and 5 days, it's 34% return, I think. With a 12% drawdown, you can tone it down, I guess. We used a 0.1 lot size on 1,000, so maybe it was a bit too much. Win percentage of around 77%, total trades, 79 trades in total in a month and 5 days. Average profit size of 12, average loss size of 21, consecutive losses 143, consecutive profit of 146. So these are the results that we are getting from the TopBottom EA as we download it from the market. Now I have written it as well myself, calling it TopBottom EA cleaned up by Mr. Caffrey, and that's what we're gonna code today. But let's run it as well. So here we're gonna choose the display switch as true, and the lot sizes. I've changed the names here just to make it more clear that this is risk in basis points, that this is a different setting for different pairs. Do you want to use different settings for different pairs or not? Volatility for William R percentage, and max spread allowed in points. And then the display switch is true now, and as a comment, the TopBottom EA cleaned up by Mr. Caffrey. And let's go back and change it to visual mode, and if I start, we see the same. So here is that panel. The EA is doing the trading in a similar way as well. I've removed the grid here as well because I don't like to see the grids. But that's the only change that I can see between what I have written versus what I downloaded. And then if I run it non-visually so that we have the full month on a 1 minute chart, and you will see that the graph is pretty much, and you will see that the graph is identical. And if you look at the backtest results, it's exactly the same, $340 in total. Same balance drawdown, same equity drawdown, same number of trades, same number of profit trades, profit percentage, consecutive wins of 11, exactly the same as if you ran the TopBottom EA. So this is just to demonstrate that the codes that I have written are going to give you exactly the same EA as if you were downloading it from MetaTrader. Now with that established, let's go code this EA. Today we're going to code it for MT5, and either tomorrow or day after I'll come back with another video where we're going to show how to code this for MT4 as well. So here we go into Meta Editor, create a folder under Expert. I'm calling it TopBottom EA. This is where I've already written the code, but now I'm going to show the codes to you guys as well. So let's start with Expert Advisor. Let's give it a name, TopBottom EA cleaned up by Mr. Caffrey, version 1.31. Next. And here is the opening template. I'll clean it up. So here's the cleaned up file. So the first thing I'm going to change is that it is version 1.31. It's a TopBottom EA cleaned up by Mr. Caffrey. And then back here again, if I go back to the market, the TopBottom EA that we downloaded, if I pull it to the chart, this is what I see as a description. So I'm going to write the same description in my version of the EA as well. So here as well, we're going to write property and the description, which is exactly the same as in that EA. It doesn't serve any purpose, just for the sake of completeness, I'm writing the same stuff. Yeah, you can skip that part if you want to. Then as we will be doing trading operations, so we need to include the trade.mqh file, which is here in the include folder, trade.mqh, trade.mqh, which comes with all of these codes already pre-written by MQL so that we can use them in order to do trading operations. So I'm going to use 3 of them, which I always use. So I'm going to just write them. So C trade class, which is going to be used to buy, sell, change, modify the orders. And I'm assigning it to a variable by the name of trade. Then the C position info class is used to get the information on open positions. And that I'm assigning to a variable by the name position info. And then the C order info, which is used to collect information on the orders which are placed on the broker server. And I'm assigning it to order info. Now, I don't know if all 3 of them are going to be used. I'm pretty sure the trade one is going to be used. I don't know if the order info is going to be used, but I normally have a practice of writing all 3 of them. So I'm starting with that. Then these are the input variables. If I pull down the top bottom EA here and go to the input, these are the variables and these are the default values. And this is what I'm writing here as well. So lots, compound interest switch, risk, parameter switching, volatility, stop loss, profit, point differential limit, display switch, magic end, and comment name. But now I have put in a little bit of description here as well. So if you write these, then these names are going to be overwritten in the MT5 input tab here. So you're not going to see these names, you're going to see these names. And this I have done as an addition just to make it easy to understand what is what, because this compound interest switch, difficult to understand, easier to understand if we call it risk in basis points instead of fixed loss. But this is optional. You can delete these, and then these are the names which are going to appear. Then I'm creating some variables which are not input variables, so the user cannot input anything, but this is where we're going to store the values. So the volatility threshold, where we're going to store the volatility from the user input, but because we want to change it later as well for different currency pairs, this is why I'm assigning it to a new variable. And then the stop loss points, take profit points, the max bandwidth and the minimum bandwidth, because we're going to be using Bollinger Bands. So what is the maximum bandwidth and what is the minimum bandwidth that we're going to allow for trading? Then when we will calculate the lot size, if the user has used risk instead of the fixed lots, then we're going to store the values in calculated lot size. And in order to calculate the lot sizes, we're going to need account balance divider, the max slippage, and whether or not the trading is allowed. Then these variables for William are percentage threshold and a handle for Bollinger Band and William risk profile. Then during the coding of the EA, we're going to play with the time as well. So what will be the starting time and the ending time for the EA? So we need these variables, and you will see the usage of these as we go along and code. And then we will be checking whether or not there are already positions open before we open a new position. And for that, I'm creating these two, which is, let's check how many buy positions are open and how many sell positions are open before we place an order. Then we need these variables for the trade management as well, but also for that panel that you saw, because that panel is going to show how many lots are there for buy and sell and what is the price, what's the value. And then we're also going to need the buy stop loss, sell stop loss variable during the coding as well. So I'm creating these as well. And then these two variables for the total buy profit and total sell profit that we're going to show in the panel. So these are all the global variables that we need to create in order to code this EA. So then we go on to the on initialization. And this function, all the codes written between these two curly brackets are going to be run on the initialization of the EA. So when you attach it to a chart or when you load it into the tester. So the first one is we're going to set the expert magic number. And this magic number is a unique number that we provide to the EA here, or the user provides here, which helps the EA know which trades have been placed by this EA. So when you place an order, the EA puts a record there in the broker server in the magic input field that this is my EA. Then the next thing which I always do is I remove this grid on the chart when I apply the EA, because it just looks ugly to my eyes. And then we say that if parameter switching, which basically means this, that if the user has selected to use different settings for different pairs, then we need to assign the values of the parameters for that pair. So if that is true, then we're gonna look for the string CHF-SGD in the symbol value of the chart, or GBPSGD, which is if this string is not found, then the return value is going to be -1, which is going to be less than 1. If the symbol is not CHF-SGD and it's not GBPSGD, then in that case, the threshold for the volatility is whatever the user has assigned. Up here, the stop loss and profit points are what the user has selected. And the maximum bandwidth of the Bollinger Band is 1000 points, and the minimum bandwidth is 150. And if it is found, if it is CHF-SGD or GBPSGD, then use these values. So override what the user has selected and instead use these values. And otherwise, by saying else, so if this is not true, if it is not able to find this, then else, if you can find the GBPCAD in the symbol value, and we're using the string find because some brokers have GBPCAD.m or .a or some sort of suffix. So we're not going for the exact symbol, we're going, if you can find GBPCAD in the symbol, then use this. So 110 as the volatility for WPR. Then stop loss of this, take profit of this, maximum bandwidth this, minimum bandwidth this. Then if it is Euro SGD, then use these values. If it is GBPCHF, then use these values. If it is CHF SGD, then use these values. And if it is GBP SGD, then use these values. So these are all the special cases. Otherwise, you're going to use the values here. The values here. So these are the default values in a way. And then for the special cases of this and this, you're going to use these values. For this, you're going to use these values. For this, you're going to use these values. So very special cases for these 6 or 7 currency pairs. And then we close this if bracket, this else bracket for this if. So I'm gonna scroll it down slowly so you can see where the parentheses are. So we write this, and then else we go for this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then we close the else as well. Let's compile it to see if we have any errors, and we don't have any errors so far. So all the parentheses are in place as well. Then the next thing I'm going to do is hide the indicators. Otherwise, the Bollinger Band and the WPR values are going to show up on the chart. If you do want to show them, then you can change it to false. But just because the actual EA that is downloadable from MQL, that one is hiding it. So I'm going to hide it as well because I'm trying to copy that EA as closely as possible. And then we're going to use the I bands and IWPR to assign the values of these indicators to these handle integers that we have created. This is how you get the values for the indicators in MetaTrader 5. You assign them to a handle in the initialization, and then you can use the copy buffer method to get the values into your onTick function. Now we're going to create a panel as well, but that's for later. But just in case, because it can get confusing if you're not going line by line, I'm going to write this for now as well, that if the display switch is true, you can write it like this as well. But if you just leave it like this, it basically means if it is true. So if the user has selected this display switch to be true, then create a display panel, and we're going to create a display panel and we will update that display panel as well. Otherwise, if the user has selected it to be false, then don't bother with the creation of this, the display panel, and save us some time and save us some memory as well. Because pretty honestly, the display panel is pretty useless. So this is for the on initialization function. And then we go on to deinitialization. And here we basically say object delete all. So we're going to delete all of the objects on the chart. And because I will be creating all the objects with the name starting with TB underscore, so I can assign it here as well, that if you can find on the chart TB underscore objects, delete them all. So this is for the deinitialization, and then we go on to the onTick function, which is where all of our coding and logics are going to work. I'm going to start by creating these 4 variables that I'm going to use within the onTick function. So I'm creating them here rather than globally, which are going to be the upper Bollinger Band, the lower Bollinger Band, the current WPR value, and an indicator buffer as an array, so I can use the handle to assign the values to these 3 variables. And then using this indicator buffer, I'm copying from the handle Bollinger Band that we initialized here. The value of the upper line is starting at position 0, meaning current candle. And then I only want one value because I only want the current value. And then store it into this indicator buffer variable. Then the value that I have stored in this indicator buffer variable, I'm going to assign that value to upper Bollinger Band variable that I'm creating here. Now the array variables run from 0 to all the way to whatever, infinity, because I'm only storing one value, so it's going to be stored at place 0 in that buffer. So I'm assigning the value which is stored at 0 in the indicator buffer array to the upper Bollinger Band. Then exactly the same way, I'm going to copy as a buffer from the handle Bollinger Band the value of the lower Bollinger Band on current candle, so 0, and I only want one value, so whatever is the value now, and store it into indicator buffer. So again, it's going to be stored at the position 0, and then I can assign that value to lower Bollinger Band variable that I'm creating here. Then exactly the same way, I'm gonna copy the value from the handle WPR, which is the handle for William percentage. I don't know what's the name for this, William percentage R, I think. Yeah, William percentage R, the value of that. And for the main line, for the current candle, just store one value. So get the last value, the latest value, and put it into indicator buffer. Is going to be stored again at position 0. So I'm going to copy it from position 0 into current WPR. So now on every tick, I am repopulating the values into the upper Bollinger Band, the lower Bollinger Band, and the William percentage R variables that I've created here. So now that we have these values, we can start the buy and sell logic. So the first thing we're going to check is that if the current is spreads, and I'm getting it by using symbol info integer. So for the current symbol, get the spreads, and if the spread is less than or equal to the point differential limit, which is the value assigned by the user as the max spread allowed, so 50. So if it is less than that, then the trading allowed variable is going to store the value of true. Otherwise, the trading allowed variable is going to store the value of false, and that we can then use later to see whether or not the trading is allowed. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to update the time of the last candle. So whatever was the opening time of the last candle into the variable last bar time that we defined up here in the global section somewhere, last bar time. So I'm going to store the value of the last candle into that variable. So I'm preparing everything that I'm going to need. And then I'm going to say if the compound interest switch is true, which is if the user has selected here that instead of the fixed lots, he want to use the risk in basis points, then in that case, we need to calculate the lot size. So we calculate the lot size by saying we getting the account info double the account equity value, and then we multiply it by risk divided by the account balance divisor. And this is how the gentleman who has written the EA has done it with a divisor, which is 1,000,000 in value, and then he is defining the risk in basis points. I normally do it with risk percentage method, and you guys are aware of my calculots function, where I use either the equity or the free margin or the balance to calculate lot size based on the percentage of balance or equity or free margin. Here in this EA, the gentleman has done it as risk per trade in basis points. So I'm using the same methodology as well. In that case, the calculation of the lot size is going to be based on the account equity times the risk in basis point divided by 1 million, which is the account balance divisor. And then we normalize, so we reduce it to 2 decimal places here. So 2 decimal places. Otherwise, if it is not true, if the user has not selected this switch to be true, in that case, the calculated lot size are going to be the normal lot size, the fixed lot size that you can provide here. So now we've got the lot size as well. And then as preparation, we will need later on broker time. So what's the time on your broker server? So for example, ICMarkets is GMT plus 2. So that is the broker time. And you can see that here in the market watch. So what's the broker time? It's at 21:56 right now. And what is the GMT time? So we're going to get the GMT time as well. And then I'm also getting the ask and bid value by using the simple info double, because I'm going to need the ask and bid values later on. And then what is the point system? So how many, because I mean, every broker has different ways of denominating the currency. So for example, Euro USD is normally 5 digits after the decimal, and that's what we can get out of the points variable. So I'm assigning it to a point variable, so I only have to call it once, and then I can use the stored value rather than having to call upon it again and again. And then start the fun. Now the EA written by the gentleman here, it runs specifically from 6 o'clock GMT in the evening until 1 o'clock GMT in the morning. So if that is hard coded and your broker time is different, then we need to give you a flexibility to select the right corresponding time for the backtesting. So the real live account trading is only going to happen between 1800 hours and 1 o'clock and 0100 hours in the morning, GMT time. But because different brokers have different times, GMT plus 2 or GMT plus 3, so in the tester, the author of the EA has provided the flexibility to actually go that if it is a tester environment, then let's not use the GMT, but rather use the values assigned by the user up here. So you can actually assign these values to correspond them from your broker time to GMT time, so that you can run the test. Otherwise, if that flexibility is not there, then every time the EA is going to run from 1800 hours until 0100 hours on broker time in the tester, which is not necessarily the GMT time. I hope that this logic is clear. So first we're going to write the codes for if it is the tester environment by getting the MQL info integer MQL tester equals true. So it is testing mode. Then in that case, we're going to check if the broker time hour, and this is the variable that we have created here by assigning the current time into the broker time. So broker time dot hour, and you can, when you write the broker time, because it's the MQL date time variable, so you can get the day value or the hour value and the minute value, which you cannot do with the date time variables. If the hour of the broker time is bigger than whatever the user has assigned as hour 1 and is less than whatever is the hour time end trading hour time 1, or it is in between the hour time 2 and end hour time 2, and this is basically to say the user can select that the starting time is 8 o'clock in the night, but then they end at the change of the day. And then the next period is going to start from 0 to 3. So in that case, you're basically saying 20 to 24 of this day, and then 0 to 3 of that day, which are going to overlap. So you have a 7-hour trading period. Otherwise, it's not possible to tell the EA to roll over to the next day as well. And this is why we are creating it into 2 different parts. So if it is between, if your broker times hour is between either of the 2 ranges, in that case, the trading is allowed. So we get the Bollinger Band values and we look at that upper Bollinger Band minus the lower Bollinger Band. So the width of the Bollinger Band is less than whatever is the max bandwidth allowed. And if that is true, then we check that the same range is at least bigger than the minimum range allowed. So it is between the minimum and the maximum value. And then we say if the sell position count plus the buy position count is less than 1, which basically means that currently there are no open trades. So only open the trade if there is no open trade already. And the trading is allowed. Remember, we were checking here somewhere, this one. If the spreads are less than whatever is the max spread allowed, then the trading is allowed. So if that value is also true, then we go on to the sell and buy logic. And we say that the buy logic is that if all of these are true, then we're going to check that the current William percentage R value is below the threshold minus 100. So if the threshold is 5, so it's minus 95. So it's below minus 95. So it's way over sold. And that the last signal time that we're going to create later, that the last signal time is not the last bar's time, so that we don't end up with duplicate trades. Then in that case, we create a variable by the name margin. And then we check calculation of the margin. And this is the method that you can use, order calculate margin. And you say, well, I'm going to buy something on this symbol with this lot size that we are calculating above here. Use the price, which is ask value, and store how much margin is required to complete this trade into this variable margin that we have created here. So this is how we can get the margin before even placing the trade. And whatever is the free margin available in our account, it is bigger than whatever is the margin requirement coming out to be from this function. So in that case, we proceed to open the trade. And we open the trade by saying, well, the stop loss is going to be ask minus whatever is the stop loss points coming from our initialization. So depending on which currency it is going to be different stop loss points and take profit points. So we get that value and store it into a variable that we're creating here as SL. And then we proceed to use the trade variable that we created above by saying trade dot. And when you hit dot, it's going to open up this drop down. So trade dot buy. And then you have to provide the volume. So here's the calculated lot size. Then the second thing you need to provide is symbol. So current symbol, what is the price on ask? What's the SL that we just calculated above? What's the TP? Now we are collecting the values for these TPs from the user and also in these profiles here, for example. But for some reason, the author of the EA is not using them. So I'm also, just in order to copy it properly to how the author has written it, I'm also leaving it as no TP. But if you want, you can make a change to the TP values that we are getting. And then in the end, the comment name. And then once we have done the trade, then we assign the value of the last bar time to the last signal time, so we don't get duplicate trades. And then the same way we go about the sell logic, where if the current WPR is greater than the negative of the threshold. So if the threshold is 5, then it's negative 5. And then the last signal time is not equal to the last bar time. Then we again check for the margin, whether or not for this sell trade on this symbol with this lot size, with the bid, store the value of the required margin into the margin variable. And then we check whether our account free margin is bigger than whatever is the margin required. And if it is true, then again, we assign the stop loss value, this time with bid plus stop loss points. And then we execute the trade sell, sending the lot size, sending the symbol, bid as the price, is stop loss that we have calculated here. Again, 0 TP, even though there is TP in the profiles, and the comment. And then again, we assign the value of the last bar time to the last signal time, because that's when we are executing this sell trade. Now that we have closed these brackets, we need to close all the other brackets that we opened here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I will close these brackets here. And this was for if it is MQL tester, so that we get the broker time and match it with the GMT. But then if it is a real account, then we say that if the GMT time is greater than 18 and the GMT hour is less than 1, so between the period of 1800 hours and 100 hours in the morning, and the rest of the code is exactly the same as here. So we basically check that the upper Bollinger Band minus the lower Bollinger Band is less than the maximum width, is bigger than the minimum width, and then the positions of the buy and sell is less than 1. So there is no open trade, that the trading is allowed. And then the same buy logic as here, and the same sell logic as above as well. So it's basically the same structure, the same everything here onwards. The only difference is if it is live trading, then we are using the GMT hours. And if it is tester, then we are using the broker time hour, which probably the author is giving this possibility so that you can match whatever is your broker time to the GMT time. So this is how we open the trades, and then this is how we close the positions. So for the buy position, if the buy position count is greater than 0, so there is an open trade and the trading is allowed, and the current WPR becomes bigger than the minus of the threshold. So here we were taking the trade when it was minus 95, and if it becomes bigger than minus 5, then in that case we loop through all the positions. So we get the positions total, we loop through it even though it's only one position, but we loop through the positions, we select the position by index, and then if the symbol of the position equals the chart symbol and the magic number equals magic number, our magic number, so we know that this is our trade, then in that case, if it is buy, then position close by sending it the position ticket number and the max slippage amount, so that it is closed when the slippage is not that much. And then the next thing is for the sell, exactly the same logic. So if there is a sell position open and the trading is allowed and the current WPR is less than minus 95, then in that case we loop through the positions, select it by index, and if it is a position type sell, then we close the position by sending it the ticket number of the position. So this is how we close the positions based on Williams R percentage. And then there is the logic to close the position on take profit, which is you could have assigned the take profit values here as well, but this is how the author is doing it. So I'm going to do it exactly the same way. So if there is a position, trading is allowed, and bid minus the price, whatever is the buy price, is bigger than the take profit point, so the trade has moved into profit by more than take profit points, then in that case loop through the position and close it. You could have assigned this take profit value just simply here when we were sending the orders, which would do the same thing, but the author is doing it in a different way, so I'll do it in a different way as well. And then for the sell trade, exactly the same thing. So if there is sell position open, trading is allowed, and the sell price minus the ask price is greater than the take profit point, then in that case we loop through the positions, and if it's a sell position, we close it. And sell price minus the ask price, because the sell price would be above, because it's a sell trade, so currently the price will be lower than the sell, so it's sell minus the ask. In case of a buy, it was bid minus the buy price. And then in the end, this panel that we created here at the top, if display, create the display panel. Now we need to create that display panel and display it. So I will now start creating the additional functions that we need. So the first one that I'm going to write is a function by the name update positions. So I'll start with all these variables that we have defined at the top here in the global variable section. And I'm assigning them the value of 0. So on the start of this open position function, all of these variables will definitely have a 0 value. So we reset them to 0 at the start. And then I'm going to loop through the positions which are currently open, which is probably going to be only one at a time, but at least we're going to loop through it. We'll select it by index, we'll get its ticket number. And then if the position info of that position is, the symbol of that is equal to our chart symbol and the magic number is our magic number, then that trade is ours on the current chart. And in that case, we go, if the position type is sell, then in that case, increase the value of the sell position count by 1 by saying plus plus. That basically means sell position count plus 1. So increase the value by 1. So from 0 to 1, get the volume of that position and assign the volume to the sell lots by saying sell lots total, which is currently 0, add to it the volume. Then the profit is whatever is the profit plus commission plus swap. So add it to the sell profit. Then add the sell price. So update the sell price as well by saying position info dot price open. So whatever was the opening price, we store that into the sell price, so that here we can use that to say sell price minus the ask is bigger than the take profit. And the sell stop loss equals to whatever is the stop loss. And if it's the buy position, then do the same thing, but this time you increase the value of the buy position count by 1, add the value of the volume to buy lots, the profit to total buy profit, and then get the buy price and the buy stop loss. So this is how we are updating the values into these variables. And then we can say return 0 because it is an integer, so update the position, so we need to return something. So we return a 0 value because we're not going to call the function to assign the value to something. So just return a 0. So now that we have the update positions, we go back up to the onTick function, and here before everything else, after the trading is allowed or the bar times, here I'm gonna add update positions. And this is because if I update it, if I call the function here, then all of the variables, the sell price and the volume and the sell stop loss, all of those, and the buy stop loss, all of those are going to be updated already here, so that then I can use them in these calculations. So where I'm using, for example, let's say here where I'm using the buy price, the original value was 0, so I need to update it before I use it. And this is why I'm updating it before all of the logic for, you can also update the positions right up here, for example, but any time before the start of these functions. So these values should be updated so that we can use the updated values into our testing for the buy position opening and the sell position opening. So after this, now I have updated these values as well. So I will create a function by the name of create display panel, because that is what we're going to call from the on initialization function. So creating a display panel. So I need to create it. So I'm creating it here. I'm creating these variables for the panel. So the starting position of the panel on X and Y, and panel width and height and spacing between different panels, and what font size am I going to use, and what font name am I going to use. So I need these variables, and then I'm going to create the first panel, which is this panel here. So this box, so I'm creating this box by saying create an object, a rectangular label with this distance. So whatever I'm putting here, 10, 20, Y, panel width, panel height. The background color is going to be dark brown, like this, or gray, whatever color it is. And the border type and the border color. This is the background color and this is the border color. So I create that box, and then I can update to it the sell positions. So the sell lots equals to 0. So I'm creating a label calling it sell lots label. Now the distance of that is going to be wherever is the panel plus 10, the Y distance another starting from this panel Y, 20 plus 10. Then the text of that is going to be sell lot 0. Currently I'm just creating it, so it's sell lot 0. And the color of the text is going to be goldenrod, this color. And the font size is going to be the font size, so 10. So I'm creating that. So I have created this label, and I will update it later. Then I need to create the buy lots label as well, which I will do exactly the same way as this. So I'll create an object label, call it buy lots label. Then the X distance is going to be X plus 10. The Y distance is going to be X plus 30 because X plus 10 is this one. If this is Y plus 10, then this is Y plus 30. So it's further down below. And the text is going to be by lot 0, which I will update later. And then again, the color and the font size. Then I will create the second box, this one, the box itself, which is going to be spaced from this one by whatever spacing we want. And we have set the spacing to be 5. So I will start by saying, now the panel X value is whatever is the panel width plus spacing. So add it to panel X. So add to whatever the panel X, the first panel was, add to it the width of that panel plus the spacing. So whatever is the width of this panel plus the spacing is where it's going to start. And then I'm creating another rectangle. I'm creating it at that distance on X, the Y. Now the X has already been updated. The Y remains the same. So it is at the same Y distance, but the X distance has been updated. Then the panel width and panel height and the background color. Now you can see here, both of them are in the same color, but here in the way that the author has written it, this color is different than this color. So I now need to create two different labels so that I can color them differently. So I'll create the first one, the sell profit, the left label, which is an object label, and the value of that or the text of that is sell profit, only this. And the color is going to be colored deep sky blue, which is this color. And then create another object label by putting it to the right X value and the right Y value. And the text is going to be 0.00, but this one is going to have the color lime, this color, the color lime. And then the font size and the anchor it to the right. So this is anchored to the right side, not the left side. And then I'll do the same for the buy labels. So again, creating two different ones, the one with the clear deep blue sky, this one, the buy profit, and then the second one is going to be this teal color or the color lime, it's called. So I'm creating these two, so the right and the left. And then in the end, we need a spread box, this one with the red color and the white color. So first I'm going to create the box by again adding to the panel X the value of the panel width plus spacing, because already it was the second box. Now we are adding the box width and the spacing once again. So now it is at the third box. And again, I'm creating the rectangle with this value of the x-axis, the first value of the y-axis, then the panel width and the color of the background. And then I'm going to add to it these two. So first is the spread label, which is going to be in red, this one. And this is just a simple label with this X value and Y axis value. And the text is going to be spread in red color with the same font size. And then the white, where we're going to update the value of the spread. Again, I'm creating another label. This time around, starting here, the same on X-axis, but on Y-axis, it is below by 20 more points or 20 more pixels. And here we're going to add the value is going to be whatever is the symbol spread currently, by getting the symbol info integer on the current symbol and symbol spread. We're going to color it white and with the font size. So it's going to be white and it's going to get whatever is the current spread. And then we open the function here, so we need to close it. And I'm going to close the function here. So this is our function for creating the label. Now we need to update the values of the labels as we go. So this is how we're going to do the update, by calling this void function update panel data. A void function basically does not return anything. We'll start with total buy lots and total sell lots equals 0. And then we're going to loop through the current positions. And if the position has our symbol and our magic number, then it's ours. In that case, we check whether it's a buy position, and if it's a buy position, then we add the volume of that position into total buy lots here. And if it's a sell position, then we add the volume of that sell position into total sell lots here. And then we update the labels that we have already created here by saying object set string, because we're setting a string value, a text. On the current chart, this is the label name, so sell lots label, which is going to be this one, sell lots label. So update its value. Which one? Update the text and change it to sell lots plus whatever is the sell total value which is coming from here in 2 digits by saying double to string. And then we update the buy lots label, updating its text property by changing it to buy lots plus whatever is the buy lots value coming from here. So this is where we are updating that panel. And then in our update positions here, we had already updated the total sell profit and total buy profit. Total sell profit and total buy profit. So we don't need to update those values again because we have already updated them by calling the function update position. So we can simply pass on that value to this function update profit display, where we're going to update the value of the total sell profit and total buy profit. So I'm going to create that function. I'm calling it void update profit display, which is this function. And here we're going to send 2 values, the object name and the profit value. So we're going to send the object name. So in first case, it's going to be the sell profit value, which is this box. And the second one is total buy profit value, which is this box. So we send these values one by one to this function, where it's going to change the color from lime or red depending on whether the profit is greater than 0 or less than 0. If it is greater than 0, then the color is lime. If it is less than 0, meaning the trade is in loss, then the color is going to be red. And then we will take this profit value that we are sending to this function as total sell profit and total buy profit. We're going to take that value, we're going to change it into a string, so a text, and store it into a text value. And then we're going to change the value of whatever is the object name coming from here. So sell profit value and buy profit value, change its text and change its color by putting in the text value and by putting in the text color from here. So this is how we will update the values of these 2 labels here. And then up here, we also had the spread update. So we're changing the value of the spread. This label is spread value that we created here. We're going to change the value of that. Which value? We're going to change the text value. And what are we going to change it to? We're going to change it to whatever is the current spread. So this is how we will update all of the panels. And now that we have written all of these functions, we can now go back to onTick function. And at the end of onTick, before we exit the onTick function, we will update the positions by calling this function, and we will update the panel data by calling this function. Creation of the panel has already been done on the initialization, so we don't need to call that again, but we'll update it. And within the update of the panel data, we will call the update of the profit display by calling this function from within here and passing on these values. I hope that is clear. So if I compile it now, I do not have any errors. And now we can run this to see if this works. So this is TopBottom EA cleaned up by Mr. Carefree version 1.31 is stored in the folder TopBottom EA under strategies from internet. So I go back here. And if I go to strategies from internet, TopBottom EA, let's refresh it. And this is the one that we have just created. TopBottom EA cleaned up by Mr. Carefree 1.31. If I attach it to the chart, then you can see that this is coming up to be the same description. The inputs are the same, besides the fact that here we gave them these descriptors by putting them after the 2 forward slashes. So instead of displaying this, it is displaying that. If you remove these descriptors, then in that case, these are going to appear here like the normal EA that you can download from MQL. These are all the variables that the author of the EA is providing to the users for input. But in my books, there are a lot of other variables which should be an input variable, like the bandwidth and the volatility and the divider and the slippage values. But the author of the EA on MQL has not provided to the user. So just for the completeness sake and keeping the EA exactly the same as what you can download on MQL, I'm also not providing them as an input. If you do want to provide it as an input, then the only thing you need to do is write input in front. And then this will be available for the user to input the values again. I compile again just to make sure. Let's drag it into the strategy tester. Once again, I'll look at the input very quickly. Everything seems fine. It's all default. Display is true, so I can run it in visual mode. And if I run it in visual mode, I can see that these are being updated properly. There is a 0.1 cell lot open here, so the values are getting updated. The total profit on this cell is 0.35, so this is correct. And I suppose the spread is correct as well. I cannot see it here. If I let it run for the entire period of until May the 5th, and I'll speed it up. We're ending up with exactly the same values of 340.27 as if you download the EA from MQL and run it for the same period on the same broker for the same chart for the same time frame and on every tick. I mean, I don't give a shit about real ticks. Everybody knows that. And here are the backtest results, which are 100% matching the backtest results of when we downloaded this EA from MQL in the demo and ran it for the test. Now, I do not own this EA from MQL, so I cannot do a live market comparison. But just from the fact that every one of these numbers match perfectly between if you download the EA from MQL for $600 versus if you write these codes following this video, which is probably going to take you 5-6 hours at max. These two results are matching to the dot. So there's not even a 1 cent difference, which gives me the comfort that the codes that we have written, they match perfectly if you were to download this EA from MQL. Now, I will come back in a couple of days on how to write this in MetaTrader 4. We're either gonna write the codes entirely, completely new in MetaTrader 4 language, or alternatively, I will show that how can you take these MQL 5 codes that we have just written and convert them into MetaTrader 4 language, which is probably easier to do. The downside is then you have to write the MQL 5 codes first and then convert them. But writing the MQL 4 codes directly from scratch, at least in my books, is a little bit more complicated. So until next time, guys, stay safe and trade safe.